Neal Station Block House merged into the early Parkersburg-Belpre settlements. A short-lived fort also was founded a few miles north on the riverbank, across from what is now Marietta, Ohio. The historic district of Harmar today can be explored in about 30 minutes or less on the other side of the Muskingum River from Marietta proper. The first fort in the Ohio country after the American Revolution was constructed under orders from Colonel Josiah Harmar, then commander of the U.S. Army. It served a purpose initially as a military post to deal with Indians as settlers began to erect their homes nearby. By 1791, the fort was absorbed into the expanding community of Marietta and a new fortification, Campus Martius. Marietta and Parkersburg soon rendered both Fort Harmar and Neal Station Stockade obsolete. At this point in our journey, I note that this trifecta of communities on the Ohio River, later in their 19th century development, became willing way stations for runaway slaves. For many enslaved people, crossing the river was a step on the path to freedom. A network of safe houses became known as the Underground Railroad connection to the Mason-Dixon line boundary between Pennsylvania and Maryland. After Pennsylvania abolished slavery in 1781, the Ohio River unofficially became a de facto demarcation, especially between slaveholding Kentucky and free Ohio. In 1810, it is believed the first conductors, as they were called, many being Quakers, started to systematically coach runaways to Ohio and north. Slavery was outlawed in Ohio very early on, which is just across the river from Virginia and Kentucky, former slaveholding states. Marietta, the quote, riverboat town, was perceived to be a freedom boundary. Heroic deeds were done, although plenty of bounders in the area did not shirk any opportunity to snatch or snitch on perceived delinquent Southerners. Notable among many abolitionists like him, Presbyterian minister John Rankin sheltered runaway slaves near Ripley, Ohio, about 50 miles south of Cincinnati. His home commanded a 300-foot-high hill called Liberty Hill, which overlooked the Ohio River. Rankin would signal freedom seekers across the river in Kentucky with a lantern, perhaps attached to a flagpole, according to reports, and let them know when it was safe for them to cross. John Parker, Rankin's neighbor, provided a boat to do the moving.
Shepherds kept their watching, or silent flocks by night. Behold, throughout the heavens there shone a holy light. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Feared and trembled when low above the earth rang out the angel chorus that hailed our Savior's birth. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. Christ was born, and God sent us salvation that blessed Christmas morn. Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born.
Parkersburg, previously a part of Virginia, on the Ohio, eventually became a terminal for the oldest physical railroad in the U.S. during the mid-1800s, the Baltimore and Ohio. This railroad's first segment began service in 1834, extending from Baltimore to the Potomac River crossing at Harper's Ferry, then on to Cumberland, Maryland to connect with the relatively new National Road, and then westward to the Ohio River and towns like Moundsville, Wheeling, and Parkersburg, all located below some of the river's most troublesome rapids. Feeder lines eventually spread to Indiana and Illinois. The railroad proved to be an important Union supplier during the Civil War and incurred significant damage at the time.